Welcome to Chess with Cody and welcome to Road to 2000. So my previous peak rapid rating is about 1800 and we're going to try to beat that. So this is going to be a very long series. So, this might take months, maybe even a year or two to reach that level. But I'm going to try to track my progress and track not only me playing games, which is going to be the primary videos, I think, are basically like play and explains. But I'm also going to, try to lay out for you guys what I'm working on in terms of like puzzles, endgame, opening, whatever I'm working on at the time. I'm going to try to fill you guys in a little bit on that. So if you want to be part of the journey, then like and subscribe. And if you've been watching my other series, which is called Brush Off the Dust Like a 1700, maybe you're a little confused because like that one's 1700, this one's 2000. But this one is for rapid, which is a little bit easier to get a higher rating. The 1700 one is for blitz. So in this series, we're going to be playing 15-minute games with a 10-second increment. So it's fairly slow pace, so I can think a little bit more. I'm going to chop out the dead periods where I'm not saying anything, so that it's got some pace for you guys, and that's going to be the primary format. Now, before I fire up a live game and play and explain that one for you guys, I actually played a game a few months ago when I was intending to start the series. Some health stuff got in the way, so I haven't been able to start it. But I want to show you guys that game and specifically the end because there's a really nice tactic that came up. So this one's going to be a little review of a nice game I played back in March. And here's a quick look at my stats in case you guys want a little more detail. So for rapid, my peak rating, let's call it 1800, 1797. I think my true strength was actually even a little bit higher than that at the time because if you look, so I had this period from about 2020, for about a year where I was playing 1510 consistently. And, I kept rising and rising. I was watching a lot of chess videos and playing a lot of chess at the time before that rating really leveled out. So there's just a gap there where I wasn't playing. And then it's been pretty sparse ever since then. So you see these flat lines. That means I took like long breaks without playing. So these are my stats if you want to see. And let's jump into the game. So opponent is about 1750 and so am I, roundabouts, and we're black. Let's take a look. So Sicilian defense, this is my main opening. And also, I think I'm going to try to explain some more beginner concepts in general in this series. I want this to be for a broader audience. And the slightly slower format with the 1510 lets me explain a little bit more. That's something I struggled with in the Blitz series because, you got to make moves. But yeah, generally every game you're going to try to fight for the center. You're going to want to develop the knights and bishops. You're going to want to castle to get your king safe in the corner. And then just continue developing like the queen and the rooks, get all the pieces into the attack. That's the goal that you guys should be going into each of your games with. So standard Sicilian opening moves, developing the knight. Okay, play continues. And now here it's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable because I am kind of behind in development. And my king is pretty vulnerable, so this rook check is coming. And I'd like to just develop my bishop and quickly castle, but we'll see that that doesn't quite work out. So yeah, I think in this moment, maybe I should have castled right here. Because what happened in the game was now this check comes in, and I wanted to try and retain castling rights. So I went bishop back, but in retrospect, this is pretty dicey because now I can't castle after they double up on the bishop, because if I castle here, they'll be able to take. Let me just show you that really quick. So after I castle, the king is no longer defending the bishop. So I'd be losing a piece here. So yeah, very uncomfortable. I developed the knight to to defend my bishop. But then they tried to remove my defender. So they brought their knight in to remove my piece that's helping aid the defense of this bishop. So question to you guys, can we castle in this position? Castle kingside. We cannot because, actually I haven't checked this with the engine, but I believe you can't because after knight takes, and we recapture. Now they're going to win this bishop because they've removed our defender. So at the end of that, we're down a piece. Yeah, I didn't check with the engine on that though, so if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. Okay, so what I decided to do instead was play king to f8, which might look really weird, but after my next move, you'll understand the idea. So now I go rook to e8, adding a defender to this bishop, and then basically I'm going to try to castle by hand. So we'll see that in the next several moves. So now, commencing the castle by hand, I'm trying to go here and then get this rook out. That's the idea. So yeah, play continues here. I mostly want to show you guys the end of this game, so I'm just going to keep charging through here. Now this move, once I went king h7 here, it is kind of dicey because white's queen has this x-ray on my king. So that's something to be aware of in this position. So they tried to kind of exploit that. So my knight currently is pinned. But I tried to relieve the pressure by going knight to e4. So now I have another shield to relieve a little bit of that pressure. And now I'm setting up a battery for a potential mating threat. They still have their knight here defending, but that might change in the future. I might be able to remove the defender or something like that. And you see, now that I bring the rook here, this is looking a little scary for them. So now this is a tricky move, and if it almost looks like we could sack the rook here for the knight and remove the defender of the bishop, then if they take, we take, they take, it kind of looks like this might work out. In reality, it doesn't quite. White has some in-between moves here. It's very complicated, so I'm just going to skip it. But yeah, I decided to go queen to b6, and white went rook up. And now I did, quote unquote, sack the rook because I'm removing the knight, which was the defender of the bishop. So by my calculation here, we're just going up material. Since the rook is 5, knight and bishop are both 3, so 5 for 6 is a good trade for me. Play continues, offering the queen trade here. And since I'm up material, I decided to go for it, or to accept the queen trade. Now I move the bishop. Play continues. In the endgame, it's important to centralize your king. You see both players trying to do this. Once there's no more mating threats on the king becomes a powerful attacking piece. So that's why you see the kings coming towards the center in the endgame. Okay. Now the goal here, guys, is basically, ideally we'd like to make a pass pawn and then promote. That's kind of the idea in most endgames. So, sometimes you're going to target weaknesses or try to get a little pawn here or there, but really what you're trying to do is create a pass pawn and promote it, or force your opponent to give up a lot of material to stop your pawn from promoting. So play continues. It was hard to figure out, how do I progress from this position, because I'm theoretically up a pawn, but white's rook is always trying to come infiltrate. It's not so easy here. So yeah, just a lot of shuffling here. I went king here because I want to make sure this rook doesn't infiltrate. So now they're attacking my pawn though, so I got to go back. So then I realized, okay, we can't just do this because then we're going to repeat. And for those of you who don't know, if you repeat the same position 3 times on the board, that is a draw or a tie, which is not what I want in this position since I'm up a pawn. So instead, I decided to go knight to b8. Now defending this square, so white can't pin my bishop. And if white comes to the corner now, then I can chase them away. So that's the idea. And I mean, it's still not clear how I'm going to break through in this position. I'm getting also kind of low on the clock at this point, so I have 1:30. My opponent has 9 minutes left. pretty big disparity. And then in this position, I thought, oh, dang, wait, maybe I messed up. How am I going to defend this pawn? I think they're just winning it. But there's a nice a little two move combo here to save that pawn. So why don't you guys pause and see if you can find it. So what I played in the game was knight check on e5, king moves, and then I go knight to f7, defending the pawn. But then I realized, like, oh, what if they go after this one though? Then what am I gonna do? So then I moved my knight again, and I feel like they should maybe just like repeated this. I don't know if I really had a defense, so I probably would have taken a draw at that moment. But they decided to do something different. And now in this position, so they're attacking our bishop. We could move the bishop, or we could defend it. So I decided to go knight to d7, and white played this move. Now I want you guys to pause. So this was the critical moment in the game where I found the winning plan. So it's black to play here. What is your plan in this position? Take some time, give it some thought. What's the winning plan in this position? So I'm going to give you a hint that kind of gives it away. So are you ready? So the hint is that white's rook doesn't have a lot of squares to move to. So now knowing that information, what's the plan here for black? King over. We do some moves here in the interim. And then the final idea, king over. So white's rook was trapped here. So white's rook can't go anywhere. All these squares are covered by my bishop and knight. So we force them, these are just in-between moves. We force them to sack the exchange and give up their 5-point rook for our 3-point bishop. And now we have a knight against with equal pawns, so this should just be a pretty easy win. And this was actually a really nice sneaky move by white. So what do you guys play here as black? Do you just take this pawn? Well, if you do that, then you know it's not so clear that you're winning anymore. If you try to push, they're going to come get your pawn. So you are winning according to the engine, it seems like. So I think you play check here probably. And, you know, you can get a dominant king position probably and win one of these pawns and send this pawn. But, you know, making it much more chaotic than it needs to be. So after white pushed here, I decided, okay, let's just go knight here. This is going to be the safest spot. And white resigned because they felt like they had no more tricks. So that was the first game I played months ago with the intention of that being maybe the start of this series. From here forward, I'm going to play some games live and commentate. So I will see you in the next episode.